To transform your organization, create amazing new art, and expand your audience, find your creative opposite. I'm Cayenne Harris, Director of Lyric Unlimited at Lyric Opera of Chicago, and I'm here to tell you about Lyric Opera's experience with its creative opposite, the Second City, Chicago's famed improv comedy theater. I'll tell you about how we found one another, the new piece we created together, how we clashed, struggled, nearly broke up, made up, bit our nails, couldn't sleep, and finally triumphed. And I'll tell you about the long-lasting ramifications of our unusual pairing. So, why is finding your creative opposite important? We in the arts sector know the rallying cry. The arts are endangered. We can't afford to continue on doing business as usual, assuming that audiences will come back to us again and again, shelling out for tickets just to observe our artistic product in the same old way they have for so many years. We've been told that we need to look outward, we need to be relevant, and that we need to collaborate. And we try. But it's rare that we take really big risks, embrace our fears, step out onto the ledge, relinquish control. Our impulse is to protect, to preserve, to seal off, to defend our art form from invaders. But if your organization is seeking change, if you want to try and create something new and extraordinary, and if you want to grow your audience, find your creative opposite. Embrace how different you are. Struggle, and there will be struggle. And watch your organization change and grow, your artistic product transform, and your audiences embrace you. So let me offer a little background. After an unequaled history of operating in the black and bragging rights for houses sold out at 103% on subscription season after season, Lyric Opera found itself facing the same challenges as everyone else in the performing arts industry: shrinking audiences, less robust subscriber base, all the result of a changing and rapidly evolving cultural landscape. And this new reality prompted some big changes. In 2010, American soprano Renee Fleming was announced as Lyric's first ever creative consultant. Then in 2011, Anthony Freud joined Lyric as general director. These two share a vision for making a 400-year-old art form relevant for the 21st century, and this vision formed the basis for the creation of Lyric Unlimited, a new arm of the company that I oversee. So, where to begin? At the risk of stating the obvious, opera has a lot working against it. Perhaps more than any other form of classical music, opera carries the baggage of stereotypes. You know them. Fat ladies singing. The opera house is the playground of the wealthy elite. Sky-high ticket prices, and let's not forget cultural snobbery, the idea that it takes years of study just to be able to comprehend what's happening on stage, and strict protocols for both performers and audiences that only insiders are privy to. So some of that is true, at least to a certain extent, but talk to me or any other opera lover and they'll tell you that there's so much more. Unfortunately, real or not, these stereotypes create barriers, and many people end up missing out on the potential for life-changing, revelatory experiences that opera can offer. So we need to change perceptions about the art form. We need to stop being so serious. We need to break some of our own rules. We need to laugh at ourselves, at the art form, and at our audiences. So on one of her visits to Chicago, Renee Fleming and her husband went to the Second City Comedy Club to catch a show. She couldn't help but notice that one of her own recordings was played as part of a sketch. And after the performance, she asked to speak to the music director, and he worried he might be in for a lawsuit. Instead, Renee suggested that the Second City and Lyric Opera meet to discuss working together. It seemed implausible, ridiculous even. Just to paint the picture, let me share a few more images. So this is the Civic Opera House, Lyric Opera's home in Chicago. And that's another shot, the inside of our theater. And that's the Second City Comedy Club. So opera's big, big. Comedy, very different. So we really couldn't be more different. But introductions were made and meetings took place, and we discovered that there was openness to working together. So we did. And this is Lyric's General Director Anthony Freud with Kelly Leonard, who's the Executive Vice President of the Second City. This was at the press conference announcing our collaboration. And the resulting projects exceeded all of our expectations. I'll tell you how we got there, and along the way I'll share some of the approaches that really worked for us. So approach number 1, let your creative opposite in. We began by sending a small team of writers from the Second City on an opera immersion experience. We gave them an all-access pass to lyric opera. They attended rehearsals, performances, master classes, fundraising events, the whole gamut. They processed these experiences and put together ideas for some sketches and songs. And they workshopped this early material to varying degrees of success at their own club and in what must have been a truly memorable experience in front of an entire team of lyric administrators, including Renee Fleming and Sir Andrew Davis. Approach number 2, notice and then embrace your differences. So immediately the contrast between our two organizations came into focus. So opera productions are planned years in advance, often presenting works that were written hundreds of years ago. And improv comedy is created on stage during the show and changes from night to night. Opera administrators are accustomed to vast amounts of lead time, detailed plans, backups in place for virtually every possible situation. And in the world of improv comedy, anything goes and nothing's for certain. Opera singers learn roles inside and out and prepare meticulously, striving for perfection. Improvisers develop the ability to create on the fly, adjust to real-time situations, play multiple characters, and use their bodies and voices in whatever ways are needed to elicit a response from their fellow actors in the audience. Improv comedy allows for failure. It encourages it, a lot of it, quickly and often. Opera has an aversion to failure. It happens, and when it does, it's epic, and rarely spoken of ever again. So clearly we had a lot to learn from one another, and there was a lot of room for conflict, but we found ways to navigate our fundamental differences. Ultimately, we were both taking a big risk in working together, and we were both invested in the artistic success of the product. So approach number 3, create something together quickly and then build from there. So we started with a quick collaborative project. We produced 2 Dr. Opera video shorts that featured famous opera duos in couples therapy. And we're going to take the time just to show you one. I think you'll recognize these characters.
So you felt as a child that your parents didn't protect you. From what?
That witch.
Oh, here we go.
Gretel, let Hansel finish. And by witch, do you mean your mother?
No, I mean a literal witch who abducted us, put a spell on us, and tried to eat us.
Gretel, is that how you remember it?
Yes, I mean, we killed her, we baked her in a cake, and then we ate her, and then we freed dozens of children who had been enslaved as gingerbread zombies. That all happened. But I'm not going to be defined by that one incident.
And what do you think the witch represents?
A witch? She had a broom and a hat. It was totally up.
You are so dramatic.
Gretel, do you think you have residual effects from this witch?
Why are you using air quotes? It really was a witch.
Hansel, please. Gretel, you were going to say.
I feel like I'm a pretty well-adjusted person.
Yeah, right.
What?
You can't keep a relationship. You had them remove the stove from your new condo, and you haven't talked to Mom and Dad in 7 years.
Our mom sent us out into the woods by ourselves. What kind of parenting is that? You know what, fine. You want to go there? Let's do that. Let's talk about your food issues.
I don't have any food issues.
Okay, have a cookie.
I don't want a cookie.
I think you do.
No, I don't want a cookie because I'm not hungry.
You are always hungry.
Fine.
My wife made those. They're gingerbread. Next, please.
So these video shorts were released months in advance of the first live performance we did together, and the response was incredibly positive and really encouraging. So it gave both of our organizations a sense that we were on the right track. But still, there was so much uncertainty. What was this thing we were creating? So approach number 4, let your creative opposite take the lead. Since lyric opera couldn't predict what the end product would be, the Second City took the reins, artistically speaking. I can't emphasize enough what a big deal this was. It may have been the most important key to our innovation. As I mentioned earlier, our impulse to protect our artistic process is so deeply ingrained, but there was no blueprint for this project, and so we really had to relinquish control. So using Second City's model for program development and utilizing the tremendous resources and grand scale of the Opera House, something brand new was born, the Second City Guide to the Opera. So the first live performance of the guide was presented in January of 2013 at the Civic Opera House. It was co-hosted by Renee Fleming and legendary actor Sir Patrick Stewart. And the sold-out event featured actors from the Second City alongside singers from Lyric's Ryan Opera Center. And members of the Lyric Opera Orchestra joined the Second City music director for the musical accompaniment. So opera-themed comedic sketches covering first dates, master classes, operatic responses to everyday situations were interspersed with well-known operas and original music. Songs poked fun at the length of opera, complicated plots, long lines at the bathroom during intermission, and the plight of the orchestra musician hidden away in the pit. Side note here, there was much discussion about his tearaway pants. In the comedy world, this is a prop that gets a quick laugh. In the opera world, there's a highly skilled team of artisans that care for costumes. You get the idea. So in Second City tradition, improvisational segments were created on the spot using material gleaned from audience members. And the composer Arnold Schoenberg, possibly the least funny composer ever, was reimagined as a stand-up comic, and he bombed as he told a series of obscure musical jokes. And the audience loved it. After a few minutes, we were all sort of very, very nervously wondering what the response would be. There were some chuckles right after the curtain raised, and then bursts of laughter, and they kept coming through the performance. So we had a hit. So approach number 5, keep building and adapt. We could have stopped there and called it a day, but the overwhelming popularity of this performance in January led to a June run of more than 20 cabaret-style performances with audience seated on stage along with the performers. So you can see the Civic Opera House, the auditorium in the back. The audience is seated on stage looking out, and the performers were on stage with them. So we essentially created a new venue. We put a comedy club right on our stage in our 3,500-seat opera house. So the cast, this time without Fleming and Stewart, revived material from January and charmed audiences with new sketches, songs, and improvisation. So between the sold-out January performance and the 20-plus performances in June, over 12,000 people enjoyed the Second City Guide to the Opera. Discussions are underway for creating the next guide, and even more exciting, the organizational appetite for risk-taking has really grown, and there's more interest than ever in unusual collaborations. And we're also exploring ways to use our new intimate venue. So, partnering with the Second City, Lyric Opera's creative opposite was a huge success that has paved the way for more risk-taking and innovation at a very traditional organization. Here are a few final ideas that I hope you'll find useful. Seek out and find your creative opposite. Create something together quickly and then build from there. Adapt and keep building. Thanks.